Okay, so welcome back to my channel. This is going to be Shrill Season 1, Episode 2 date. Okay, so Annie has been given her first article. I don't know why I don't have water because start coughing. Has been given her first article to write. And so she showed up at this strip club and called Club Shinrock, something like that. And so she initially I thought, okay, maybe she's there to interview one of the dancers. And so this guy was putting the food out, the buffet out, and so she was like, I'm here to do a review on the buffet. And I'm like, that was just a little too unappetizing for me. I'm like, do people eat at a buffet at a strip club? Anywho, so she gets a plate, and there's like 3 dancers already there, but they're off in the corner talking because there are no customers yet. It's still, I don't know what time of day it is, but it was still light out. So she sits down and she starts eating, and so the women come over and they start dancing, and she was like, oh no, you don't have to. She's like, well, no, if there's a customer, we have to dance. And so 2 of the dancers get on stage and they start dancing, and then there was this woman. I don't know if she's black. She looked maybe be biracial, and so she's like really close to Annie dancing while Annie is sitting there eating this damn food. And it's like, oh, the shrimp is really good. It tastes fresh. And so the dancer was like, oh, well, we get it from the carryout across the street. And so they start talking, and she was like, she started asking them about. She said, I've always wondered about thongs, but I've always wanted to try thongs, but I'm always fearful that I'm going to get so far up there that I might get poo on it. And so, because they started laughing, it was like, oh no, that's why you wax your asshole. And I'm like, okay, she was like, oh, well, that makes sense. And the lady did try to made some example that something about putting on the grass and some. Anywho, but they had a nice little conversation. And so she was like, well, do you ever feel kind of weird, kind of walking around in underwear and having men tell you what to do? And so the black woman was like, men don't tell me she said, I have big ass and big titties. Men don't tell me what to do. I tell them what to do. And so she was like, oh, okay. She's just so awkward, but you could tell she was kind of like, oh, okay, wow, I never thought of it that way. She was like, well, you should, because you have big ass and big titties too. You should be telling them what to do too. She was basically like, I'll keep that in mind. And so men started coming in, and so they, obviously went over to 2 of the women went over to I guess entertain the guys, but the woman who was on stage doing all the flips and all that, she was like, okay, that's for you when you're done. So she went on to tip the woman who was up there shaking her groove thing. So that was funny. Okay, so Fran, she gets home, and the first thing she says when she comes into the door, Annie says to Fran, do you wax your asshole? And then she sees all these decorations. So Fran is throwing a party for Annie and as a congratulations for her first article. And so she was like, well, is this a party of 2? She was like, no, other people will be here later. And so they see a shadow of someone a figure of someone on the front porch. And she's like, who is that? Who do you think it is? And so Fran was like, okay. So she went and got into her purse and grabbed her pepper spray. And the first she asked, no question, she opened the door and started spraying this shit right in her old boy's face. And so it turns out it was Ryan. And so, so of course, Annie's like, what are you doing here? So the next thing you know, they're in the kitchen and he's trying to rinse this stuff off his face. And he was like, I can take you to small claims court. And Fran was like, small claims court costs $30. You had $30. And he turns around and is like, yeah, I got $30. What do you take me for? Abam. She didn't say that. That's what I said. Abam. That's what I take you for. Abam. And so, she was like, Ryan, what are you doing here? He was like, I just wanted to talk to you. And so Fran left him alone, and he started talking about, when you left my house, I felt some kind of way. She was like, were you sad? He's like, I wasn't sad, and I wasn't something, but he said it just felt wrong. Like, all he basically was saying that he missed her, and it felt like to have her out of his life permanently wasn't something that he wanted, and he basically wanted to give it a try, but he just was really terrible at explaining it. He said, it's like that guy who has the dog with the shades, and she was like, you mean like a blind person with a seeing eye dog? And he was like, no, I'm not saying this right, but what I'm saying is, and then he eventually asked her out on a date. And she said yes. And so they start kissing, but he hadn't gotten all of the pepper spray off his face. So that's, she starts screaming because her face is now burning because the pepper spray. So now he has to lead her to the sink so she can get the stuff off her face. So he's gone. The party's in full swing and she's out there, I guess, dancing. She was moving her body, but okay, girl, but she was having her a good old time. And so as things quieted down, she sat down to write her article. And so Fran walks over. Fran's drunk as shit. She kind of plops next to her and was like, oh, I'm so proud of you. And you should let me cut you up some bangs. And she was like, you say that every time you drunk. He said, you remember we did that before and we woke up the next morning and neither one of us was happy. So she's like, oh, yeah. She said, oh. And so next to her was Sarah. Sarah is one of Fran's girlfriends, and she was drunk too. She's like, Fran was like, you should let me give you a bob or something. And of course, Sarah is drunk as shit, so she's like, oh, that's cool, yeah, let's do it. And so they go off together, right? And she went on and she finished her article. And so Annie, she's at work, and I think his name is Amity. This is her friend at work, and he's reading over her article, and he's like, it's a really good piece, and the next thing you know, Gabe comes out and was like, what is this? And she was like, oh, well, I just took some creative license. I thought that this would be a more interesting. He was like, no, you had a story. This doesn't. I sent you to write about a buffet, not whatever this is, and pudding, and it doesn't even make sense. And I'm gonna have to cut a lot of this. And he was like, but that's a very good article. He was just very kind of an ass. He's just an ass. He was an ass. Okay. And so he was like, I'm going to cut most of this, and So he eventually walks away, and she's like, well, what? Okay. And so her and Amelia talking, and Amelia's like, well, if he didn't like you, he wouldn't even notice you. And so she was like, well, he had noticed me the first 2 years I was here. He said, but he noticed you now. And that's the whole point. And so they kind of, have their own little hand thing they pop, slap hands or whatever. And so Ruthie is Gabe's assistant, was like, ew, why don't you guys just 69? And so they look at her, and Andy says, what? She's like, do you even know what 69 is? And she's like, yeah. So they awkwardly try to explain what 69 is. And then eventually Andy was like, I'm not having a discussion with you. And she walks off. And so next thing you know, Annie, she's with her mom. Her mom is out walking, trying to get some exercise. And, they're walking and talking. And she starts, this alarm goes off on the mom's phone, and she was like, oh, it's time for your father to take this. And so she stopped. She said, I need to send him a text. And then Annie was like, well, shouldn't he have the same alert on his phone? And she was like, oh, it's just easier for me to do it. And so, but Annie's whole thing is like, is he just helpless? Why does he need you to keep track of his medication? But that's their relationship. And she was like, it was just easy for her to do that. She was like, you see how, this is the mom, see how exercise make you feel? You always seem to be in a good mood, and so you should put exercise on your calendar. And of course that made Annie feel some kind of way, because it's very obvious that she has a better relationship with her father than her mother. And her mom, she didn't really mean anything. I guess it just depends. But Annie was like, Mom, why'd you have to do that? We were having such a good time and you had to throw that out. Why did you do that? And so they talked a little bit, and they just kept on, they continue on walking. And so she's now out on the date with Ryan. And this is a nice little restaurant. You have it's packed other couples, and they're talking, and she's just like, so what did you do interesting this week? And so he's basically like, well, one thing was this date, and which of course made her feel good. He said, me and my brother took our mom to see a Frank Sinatra impersonator. So she kind of was like, oh, okay, so he has a close relationship with his mom. And so he asked her the same thing, and she's like, well, it would be rude of me to say this, for me not to say this date. And so, of course, this date, he was like, okay, thank God. So they kind of laughed a little bit. And she talked about the article, and she went to the strip club, and he was like, I would have loved to go with you to the club. She was like, I know you would have loved to go with me to the strip club, but it was work, and I was already feeling some kind of way, so I just went and I basically did my job. So next thing you know, Ryan's friends show up, and they sit down to eat, and she's like, what is going on here? So now they're talking about the podcast. They want to change the name of the podcast. And so they're getting loud, and as you can see the photo behind me, the people in the restaurant are eating their food while these two idiots are there getting loud, and it turns into an argument, almost turns into a physical altercation between Ryan and one of his friends, and the two guys end up getting up, his two friends that came, and they got up to leave, but not before throwing a bunch of fuck yous and you're a moron and fuck that and fuck. Of course, while people are sitting there trying to enjoy their dining experience. So, of course, and she was like, tiny prick Ryan, and the guy was like, tiny prick Ryan, and so his comeback was, well, she's already seen it, so she knows that's not true. He's yelling across the restaurant, and so of course she's sitting there like, oh hell. How she was able to sit down and stomach that for as long as she did is anybody's guess. I would have got my ass up and walked out, but she stayed and she sat and through all that nonsense. Okay, and so he ends up asking her to go home with him, and she went, but by the time they got home, I think they have like a security lock that you can only access from the inside or something, the vault or something, and so they had put that on and basically locked him out of the house. So he's now she said, well, let's just go through the back. He was like, huh? You know, the back door where I always go. And so they ended up going through the back way. Now at this point she's already standing at the back door. He's trying to climb over this fence that she's had to fall over a couple of times, and he's like, he falls over the fence, was like, that was rough, and she kind of looked at him like, yeah, no. So they get in the house, and he thinks that some action's about to go down, and he was like, you have a cute butt or something. She was like, Ryan, he was like, what, was that wrong? She was like, no, but you know, nothing's going down tonight. You have to understand that there are going to be times I'm in the mood and there are going to be times when I'm not. And there are going to be times when I just want to talk. That's just, what it is. And so he's like, so do you want to watch me jack off? She's like, no, like, he is just he's a buffoon. And so they started talking, and eventually they started kissing, but that's as far as it went. So she hears somebody in the kitchen the next morning, and it was she goes out just with her t-shirt on, but it's a long t-shirt, so she's covered. And so she goes out into why she would go out knowing there are other men in the house. Again, it's anybody's guess. But she goes into the kitchen and she finds this woman cooking, Janelle. Janelle is Ryan's mom. So this is how she first meets Ryan's mom, half naked. So Ryan's mom, another indication that Ryan is just a useless buffoon. His mom is there doing his laundry and making him breakfast. Now, if you look at this photo, Ryan looks to be, 30? Okay. So they meet, and she introduced herself. I'm Ryan's mom, and he's told me so much about you. And she went over and she hugged Annie, and it's like, oh, okay. Well, I'm really sorry. I usually have more clothes on, and and she was like, oh, don't worry about that. And so Ryan comes out of the room, and the first thing he says is, not my hi mom, not good morning, not I'm glad to see you. His first words were, Mom, did you do my laundry? And she's like, yes. And then he saw what was on the stove, and she was like, Mom, I don't eat meat for breakfast. So he kind of got snarky with his mom, and I'm just thinking to myself, girl, you got all the red flags there. Like, this guy is a loser. He's a bum. He's inconsiderate. Like, how do you talk to your mom like that? But she stayed, and they say, the mom was like, oh, no, I think she did say, what are you talking about? Why would you say that to her or something? And so the mom was like, oh, he's just grumpy in the morning without his coffee. I think you should know, you probably know that. She was like, yeah, he's just a grumpy something. So she did acknowledge that he was out of order, but the fact that she stayed, okay, girl. Anywho's. Okay, so so the last thing we hear the mom say is, so Ryan said that you killed my grandbaby. So now Annie is back at her house, and her and Fran is sitting around talking, and she said that the mom wanted to have a funeral for the fetus. And so Fran was like me, my thinking was like, did you tell her fuck off? She's like, well, she was nice and da-da-da. And I just told her that I didn't have the time, and she was like, oh, we can plan it around your schedule. And so apparently I'm supposed to be planning this. Annie's supposed to be planning this for this Okay, child. Okay, so so she said, so what did you guys do? She was like, so I just spent the night there. And so Annie was friend was like raw dogging. She was like, no, it wasn't any raw dogging or hand dogging or blow dogging. It was just, we just slept. It wasn't about that. So Sarah comes in and basically now she starts fussing Fran out for the way her hair was cut. I mean, it wasn't a bad cut, but her hair was a lot longer than when she initially came to the party. So she was like, so she's going off on Fran. And Fran's like, oh, it looks fine. They going back and forth. So Annie excused herself and she goes to the room, open her laptop, and she realized that Gabe had published her article as it was. So, okay. So of course she's excited. So she runs out in the middle of their argument with the laptop. She's showing Fran. Of course, they're both excited, and of course Sarah is like, okay, excuse me, my hair. And Annie is like, oh, it looks nice, and Franny and Sarah basically looks at Fran and says, it's over, and she walks away like she's walking out of the house. And Fran's like, oh, you love me. And Sarah was basically like, not this much. She goes out, and Franny and Annie was like, oh man, I'm sorry, did I just cause a breakup? I'm like, how you gonna cause a breakup? Man, the woman's already pissed at her hair, so whatever. She was like, oh, I ain't gonna worry about that. But you published your first article, so she was so excited. So I wonder what's gonna happen if we're gonna find out that Fran has a thing for Annie. I don't know. I don't know. I like their friendship as it is. I hope that doesn't change, but okay. So Sarah left, and so now Annie's at work, and he's congratulating her on the article. They published the article, and you should see the comments and and there are a lot of people who like the comments, liking comments, So he congratulates her and walks off. So Ruthie, the same one, was like, why don't y'all just 69? She walks over almost like she didn't want to be seen over at Annie's desk. She's like, did you need something? And Annie was like, you came over to my desk. What's up? She's like, yeah, I kind of always thought that you were dumb, but I read your article and it was actually good. So you go, girl. But she said it real low. And so Annie was like, huh? She's like, you go, girl. She was like, okay. And Annie was like, oh, thank you. And so Ruthie's like, you have $5 I can borrow. And so he was like, $5. And Ruthie was like, I mean 20. I mean, you have 20. It's for me. Why she said that, I don't know. But so Ruthie ends up giving her the $20. She snatches the money out of Annie's hand and walks off. And so Annie's now looking at the comment section, the dreaded comment section. And everything is good. Oh my God, we love this article. Hope you write a sequel. Kudos. And then the dreaded comment from hell. How anybody could like this fat whale and and the whole thing, and that's all it takes. Those of us who are content creators, or even if you have blogs or whatever you do, you know that when you go and you look at your comment section and you see you take the good. Hopefully you have enough sense that you have to take the good with the bad, and you have a thick skin. But even in that situation, you still, when you see those comments, it's like, even though you realize this is so stupid and unnecessary, it's still, it still can kind of sting a little bit. Of course, you focus more on the bad comments than the good, and of course, most of the time the good comments outweigh the bad. And so, but you did see it kind of jabbed her a little bit, like she felt kind of deflated, where she was on cloud 9 for a while. That comment did kind of take the wind out of her for a minute. So that's how episode 2 ended. And yeah, I'm going to end this here. And I'm so sick of Ryan. I'm just, girl, why don't you know that you can do better? How many of us can relate? So I'm going to end this here, and I will talk to you guys later.